First contact shock. The vast lecture hall of the Galactic University of Sociology buzzed with nervous energy. Professor Zixlak, a tall, willowy being with iridescent scales and 4 arms, paced back and forth at the front of the room. His elongated head swiveled on a serpentine neck as he addressed the assembled students. "Now, class," Zixlak began, his voice a melodious trill. "Today is a momentous occasion. For the first time in our university's history, we will be hosting exchange students from a Category 12 death world. Yes, you heard that correctly. Earth." A collective gasp rippled through the audience. The students, representing dozens of species from across the galaxy, exchanged worried glances. Many of them had never even seen a Deathworlder before, let alone interacted with one. Zixlak raised all 4 of his hands in a calming gesture. I know. It's alarming. But remember, these humans have passed rigorous psychological evaluations and have agreed to abide by our safety protocols. They are here to learn, just as you are." At that moment, the doors at the back of the lecture hall slid open with a soft hiss. 2 figures entered, and an immediate hush fell over the room. The aliens stared, some in fear, others in fascination, as the humans made their way down to the front. The first human was tall and muscular, with dark skin and close-cropped hair. He moved with a fluid grace that seemed at odds with his powerful frame. The second was shorter, with pale skin and long, fiery red hair tied back in a complex braid. Both wore the standard silver jumpsuits of Galactic University students, but somehow they made the uniforms look dangerous. Welcome, Professor Zixlak said, his voice only slightly higher than usual. "Class, please greet our Earth Exchange students, David Chen and Sarah O'Brien." David smiled, revealing disconcertingly sharp teeth. "Thanks for having us, Professor. We're excited to share a bit about Earth culture with everyone." Sarah nodded, her green eyes scanning the room with an intensity that made several students shrink back in their seats. "We've prepared a presentation that we think will give you all a good overview of what life on Earth is like." Professor Zixlak gestured to the holographic projector. "Please, begin whenever you're ready." David stepped forward and activated the projector. The 3-dimensional image of Earth appeared, spinning slowly in the air. "This is our homeworld," he said. "As you can see, it's a diverse planet with a wide range of environments. From scorching deserts to frozen tundras, from deep oceans to soaring mountains." Sarah continued, "Humans have adapted to live in nearly every corner of our world. But more than that, we've learned to thrive in these harsh conditions. In fact, we often seek out challenges and dangers for fun." The alien students exchanged confused looks. A tentacled being near the front raised an appendage. "Excuse me," it burbled, "but did you say you seek out danger for enjoyment?" David grinned. "Absolutely. Let me show you an example." The hologram changed to show a human clinging to the side of a sheer cliff face, thousands of feet above the ground. "This is a sport we call free solo climbing. It's when a person climbs enormous rock walls without any safety equipment." The lecture hall erupted in a cacophony of alarmed clicks, whistles, and subsonic rumbles. Professor Zixlak's scales had taken on a distinctly pale hue. But why?" he stammered. "Surely one mistake would mean certain death." Sarah nodded enthusiastically. "Exactly. That's what makes it so exhilarating. The challenge, the risk, the pure focus required. It's the ultimate test of human skill and nerve." A crystalline being in the back row chimed in, its facets pulsing with agitation. "This seems highly illogical and unnecessarily dangerous. What possible benefit could such an activity provide to your species?" David considered the question for a moment. "It's not about practical benefits, really. It's about pushing our limits, discovering what we're capable of. Humans have an innate drive to explore, to challenge ourselves, to go beyond what's considered possible." The hologram shifted again, this time showing the human in a wingsuit, soaring between mountain peaks at incredible speeds. Sarah explained. This is wingsuit flying. It's as close as humans can get to true flight without technology. The pilots navigate through narrow gaps and skim dangerously close to the terrain. A multi-limbed arachnoid student chittered nervously. But the margin for error seems non-existent. How do you not lose countless lives to such reckless behavior? Sarah laughed, a sound that made several nearby aliens flinch. Oh, we do lose lives sometimes, but that's part of the risk, part of what makes these activities so thrilling. We train extensively, of course, but there's always an element of danger. That's what makes us feel truly alive. The alien students were now in various states of distress. Some had retreated into protective shells or exoskeletons, while others were emitting pheromones of fear and confusion that filled the air with a pungent musk. Professor Zixlack attempted to regain control of the situation. Perhaps we could move on to some less extreme aspects of human culture. David nodded. Of course, Professor. Though I should warn you, even our everyday activities might seem a bit intense to some of you. He changed the hologram once more, this time showing a bustling city street. This is New York City, one of our largest urban centers. Millions of humans live and work here, constantly competing and striving to succeed in various fields. A gelatinous student oozed forward slightly. Compete? You mean you fight each other for resources? Sarah shook her head. Not physically, usually. We compete in business, in academics, in the arts. We're driven to be the best, to innovate, to push the boundaries of what's possible. It's this drive that's allowed us to advance so quickly as a species. The hologram zoomed in on a group of humans in business attire, rushing along the sidewalk with determined expressions. David explained, many humans work incredibly long hours, sacrificing sleep and personal time to achieve their goals. We call it the rat race, an endless pursuit of success and achievement, a plant-like being swayed in distress. But why? Surely there must be a point at which you have enough resources to live comfortably. Sarah smiled. It's not about having enough. It's about the challenge, the thrill of achievement. Humans are never satisfied with enough. We always want more, want to be better, want to do what no one has done before. As the presentation continued, the alien students grew increasingly agitated. They learned about extreme sports like base jumping and deep-sea freediving, about humans' fascination with exploring the most inhospitable parts of their world, and about their relentless pursuit of scientific and technological advancement. By the time David and Sarah concluded their presentation, the lecture hall was in chaos. Students were debating frantically among themselves, some arguing that humans were too dangerous to be allowed into galactic society, others expressing a grudging admiration for their tenacity. Professor Zixlack, looking thoroughly overwhelmed, managed to regain enough composure to address the class. Well, thank you, David and Sarah, for that illuminating presentation. I think we all have a lot to process. Class dismissed for today. Please take some time to reflect on what you've learned about our new human colleagues. As the alien students filed out of the lecture hall, casting nervous glances back at the two humans, David and Sarah exchanged a satisfied look. Their mission to introduce Earth culture to the galaxy had certainly made an impression, though whether it was the one they'd intended remained to be seen. Professor Zixlack approached them, his scales still off-color. I must say, he began hesitantly, your species is quite unlike any we've encountered before. I fear you may have traumatized some of my students. Sarah grinned. Don't worry, Professor. They'll adapt. After all, that's what life is all about, isn't it? Adapting to new challenges. As they left the lecture hall, David and Sarah couldn't help but feel a mix of amusement and pride. They had taken the first step in showing the galaxy what humanity was truly capable of, and this was only the beginning. Unexpected challenge. The days following the humans' presentation were filled with a tense calm at the Galactic University. Alien students whispered among themselves, casting furtive glances at David and Sarah whenever they passed in the hallways. Professor Zixlack had his hands full trying to reassure worried parents and university officials that the human exchange students posed no immediate threat to campus safety. It was during this uneasy period that disaster struck. The emergency alarms blared across the campus, their haunting wail echoing through the crystalline spires of the university buildings. Students and faculty of all species rushed to the central auditorium, their faces, or equivalent sensory organs, etched with worry. Chancellor Voxtree, a being composed of shimmering energy contained within an exosuit, floated onto the stage. The normally radiant figure seemed dimmed with concern. Esteemed members of our academic community, Voxtree's voice resonated through the hall. I regret to inform you that we face a grave crisis. Our planet's core stabilization array has malfunctioned. If not repaired within the next 48 hours, our world faces total geological collapse. A wave of panic swept through the auditorium. The planet, while perfect for a diverse range of alien life, was artificially stabilized to accommodate its university population. Without the array, devastating earthquakes and volcanic eruptions would tear the world apart. Our engineering teams are working tirelessly, Voxtree continued, but the damage is severe. The stabilization chamber is flooded with toxic gases and radiation. We may need to consider evacuation protocols. From their place near the back of the auditorium, David and Sarah exchanged a look. Sarah raised an eyebrow, and David gave a slight nod. They stood up. "Chancellor," Sarah called out, her voice cutting through the panicked murmurs, "we'd like to volunteer to help." The auditorium fell silent, all eyes, or sensory organs, turning to the two humans. Chancellor Voxtree's energy form flickered in surprise. That's very brave of you," the Chancellor said, "but the environment down there is lethal. Even our most resilient species can't survive those conditions for more than a few minutes." David stepped forward, his voice calm but filled with determination. "With all due respect, Chancellor, humans are built differently. We come from a world that's tried to kill us every day of our evolution. We might just be able to handle it." Professor Zixlack, who had been watching the exchange with growing alarm, interjected. "Surely you're not considering this, Chancellor. It's far too dangerous." Sarah grinned, a predatory expression that made several nearby aliens flinch. "Danger is our middle name, Professor. Well, not literally, but you get the idea. We've trained for extreme environments. Let us help." The Chancellor's energy form pulsed as they considered the offer. "Your bravery is commendable, but I cannot in good conscience send you into such peril. The radiation alone would be—" "Chancellor," David interrupted, his tone respectful but firm, "Earth's background radiation is higher than most habitable worlds. We have natural resistance, and we've brought protective gear designed for much worse conditions than this. Please, let us try." A tense silence fell over the auditorium. The aliens looked back and forth between the humans and the Chancellor, a mix of fear, awe, and desperate hope on their faces. Finally, Chancellor Voxtree's energy form brightened slightly. "Very well. If you truly believe you can help, we would be forever in your debt. But I must stress the extreme danger of this mission." Sarah's grin widened. "Extreme danger is what we do best, Chancellor." As David and Sarah left to prepare, the alien students burst into frenzied discussion. Some were convinced the humans were walking to their doom, while others dared to hope that these strange Deathworlders might actually save them. In the preparation chamber, David and Sarah donned their protective suits, sleek, form-fitting outfits that looked deceptively fragile to alien eyes. "You sure about this?" David asked as he checked Sarah's seals. Sarah nodded, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "Are you kidding? This is what we came here for, to show them what humans can do." A team of alien engineers briefed them on the stabilization array systems, marveling at how quickly the humans grasped the complex technology. As David and Sarah prepared to enter the access shaft, Professor Zixlack approached, his scales a pale, worried hue. I feel I must try one last time to dissuade you," he said, his voice trembling. The conditions down there are beyond anything you've experienced. The gravity fluctuations alone could tear you apart. David placed a reassuring hand on the professor's shoulder, causing Zixlac to flinch slightly at the casual contact. "Professor, trust us. This isn't our first rodeo." Seeing the alien's confusion, Sarah chuckled. "It's an Earth expression. It means we've done dangerous things before. This is just another day at the office for us." Before Zixlac could respond, the humans sealed their helmets and entered the access shaft. The airlock hissed shut behind them, and the alien observers watched in tense silence as the humans began their descent into the planet's volatile core. Inside the shaft, David and Sarah faced a nightmarish environment. Gravity shifted wildly, threatening to crush them one moment and fling them into the walls the next. Noxious gases swirled around them, their suits' filters working overtime. Radiation levels spiked on their sensors, but the humans pressed on. "Just like that time we went diving in the Marianas Trench, eh?" Sarah's voice crackled over the comm, a hint of exhilaration in her tone. David grinned inside his helmet. "Nah, this is way more fun. At least here, we don't have to worry about giant squids." They reached the main chamber of the stabilization array, a vast cavern filled with crystalline structures and pulsing energy conduits. At the center, a massive reactor core flickered erratically, its usual steady glow interrupted by dangerous surges. "All right," David said, "all business now. I'll work on realigning the core. Sarah, see if you can reroute power from the auxiliary systems to boost the containment field." As the humans set to work, the alien observers watched in awe through the monitoring systems. The humans moved with a speed and precision that seemed impossible in the volatile environment. Where alien engineers had failed, unable to withstand the conditions long enough to effect repairs, David and Sarah thrived. Hours passed, each moment bringing the planet closer to destruction. The humans' life support systems were pushed to their limits, but they refused to retreat. Finally, as the deadline loomed, a series of satisfying clicks and hums echoed through the chamber. The reactor core stabilized, its glow returning to a steady, comforting pulse. The ground beneath their feet, which had been trembling ominously, grew still. In the observation room, the alien engineers erupted in cheers and expressions of relief. Professor Zixlac stared at the monitor in disbelief, his scales shimmering with a mix of relief and newfound respect. Chancellor Voxtree's energy form blazed brightly. They did it. These humans actually did it. As David and Sarah emerged from the access shaft, tired but triumphant, they were met with a scene they hadn't expected. The alien students and faculty, who had been so afraid of them just days ago, now pressed forward, reaching out to touch them, to express their gratitude. Professor Zixlac approached, his posture one of humble amazement. We were wrong about you. What you've done today, it's beyond anything we thought possible." Sarah smiled, removing her helmet and shaking out her sweat-soaked hair, causing a few nearby aliens to step back in surprise. "That's the thing about humans, Professor. We specialize in the impossible." Chancellor Voxtree floated forward. "You have saved our world and shown us a courage we never imagined. How can we ever repay you?" David grinned, putting an arm around Sarah's shoulders. "Well, Chancellor, how about we start with a real cultural exchange? I think it's time we taught you all how humans celebrate a job well done." As the humans began to describe the concept of a party to their bewildered but increasingly intrigued alien hosts, it was clear that the relationship between Earth and the galactic community would never be the same. The age of human exceptionalism in the stars had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. Pushing the limits. In the weeks following the planet's near catastrophe, the atmosphere at the Galactic University had undergone a dramatic shift. The fear and suspicion that had initially greeted David and Sarah had been replaced by a mixture of awe, curiosity, and, in some cases, a tentative desire to emulate the daring humans. Professor Zixlak's Xenosociology class had become the most popular on campus, with students from all faculties clamoring to learn more about these enigmatic Deathworlders. Today's lecture was particularly packed, with even some faculty members sneaking in to listen. "Now, class," Zixlak began, his scales shimmering with excitement. "Today we have a special treat. Our human exchange students, David and Sarah, will be giving us a practical demonstration of some typical Earth recreational activities." A murmur of anticipation rippled through the audience. David and Sarah stepped forward, grinning. "Thanks, Professor," David said. "We thought long and hard about what to show you all, and we decided to start with something relatively tame by our standards: rock climbing." Sarah activated the holographic projector, displaying an image of a towering cliff face. "This is El Capitan in Yosemite National Park, one of Earth's most challenging climbs. Normally, it takes several days to ascend. But today, we're going to show you speed climbing." The aliens watched in fascination as David and Sarah donned climbing harnesses and approached a section of wall that had been specially prepared for the demonstration. Without further ado, they began to climb, their movements fluid and precise. "Notice how they're not using any anti-gravity aids or adhesive appendages," Professor Zixlak commented, his voice filled with wonder. "They're relying solely on their own strength and skill." As David and Sarah raced up the wall, the alien audience gasped and chittered in amazement. When the humans reached the top in a matter of minutes, the lecture hall erupted in applause. Breathing heavily but grinning, David and Sarah rappelled back down. "That was just a warm-up," Sarah said. "Now, who wants to try?" A tense silence fell over the room. Then, hesitantly, a tentacle rose from the back. It belonged to Glixspor, a cephalopod-like being known for his timidity. I would like to try," Glixspor said, his voice quavering. The other aliens stared in shock as Glixspor made his way to the front. David and Sarah exchanged pleased looks. "Excellent," David exclaimed. "Don't worry, we'll start you off easy, and we'll be right here to spot you." What followed was both comical and inspiring. Glixspor's tentacles, evolved for life in low-gravity oceans, struggled to find purchase on the climbing holds. But with patient encouragement from David and Sarah, and cheers from his classmates, Glixspor slowly began to make progress. By the time he had ascended a mere 3 meters, Glixspor was trembling with exertion and fear. But as he looked down at the encouraging faces below, something changed in his expression. With a surge of determination, he reached for the next hold. "That's it," Sarah called out. "You're doing great, Glixspor. Push through the fear." When Glixspor finally reached the top of the beginner section, the alien audience erupted in cheers louder than they had for the human's expert climb. As David helped the shaking but elated Glixspor down, it was clear that something fundamental had shifted in the alien student's perception. "Remarkable," Professor Zixlak mused. "Simply remarkable. Glixspor, how do you feel?" Glixspor's chromatophores were flashing in a dazzling display of excitement. I've never felt anything like it, Professor. The fear was terrible, but pushing through it, I feel like I could take on a black hole." Sarah laughed. "That's the spirit. Now, who's next?" To everyone's surprise, a line began to form. Aliens of all shapes and sizes, from crystalline beings to amorphous blobs, waited for their turn to attempt the climb. David and Sarah spent the rest of the class coaching their alien classmates, offering encouragement and advice. As the class ended, Professor Zixlak addressed the students. "I hope you all realize the significance of what you've experienced today. Our human friends have shown us that growth often lies on the other side of fear. This is a lesson we would do well to remember." The impact of the climbing demonstration extended far beyond the classroom. Over the next few days, the university buzzed with excited discussions. Alien students could be seen attempting to climb various structures around campus, much to the alarm of the maintenance staff. But it wasn't just physical challenges that the aliens began to embrace. Inspired by the humans' boldness, students started taking intellectual risks as well. The university's research output soared as aliens began proposing audacious theories and conducting daring experiments. One evening, as David and Sarah were enjoying a meal in the campus dining hall, much to the fascination of their alien classmates, who were still amazed by the humans' omnivorous diet, they were approached by Chancellor Voxtree. I must confess, the Chancellor's energy form pulsed. When we first agreed to this exchange program, I had my doubts. I feared you might be too volatile for our institution. But now, I see that your presence here is nothing short of revolutionary. David smiled. Thank you, Chancellor. We're just happy to share our perspective. Sarah nodded. Exactly. Humanity has always believed that the greatest growth happens when you push beyond your comfort zone. We're glad to see that idea resonating here. Chancellor Voxtree's form brightened. Indeed, which is why I have a proposal for you both. We would like to expand the human exchange program. Not just more humans coming here, but sending some of our students to Earth. David and Sarah exchanged excited glances. That would be amazing, Sarah said. But are you sure your students are ready for Earth? It can be a pretty intense place. The Chancellor's energy crackled with what might have been laughter. After what I've seen in the past weeks, I believe they're more ready than they've ever been. Your influence has awakened a spirit of adventure in our students that I never thought possible. As the Chancellor floated away, David and Sarah contemplated the implications of this new development. Earth isn't going to know what hit it, David mused. Sarah grinned. No, but I have a feeling the galaxy isn't going to be the same either. We came here to learn about alien cultures, but it looks like we're teaching more than we're learning. Isn't that always the way with humans? David laughed. We never can just sit back and observe. We always have to shake things up. As they watched their alien classmates attempting to use chopsticks, a recent human introduction that had become surprisingly popular, David and Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. They had come to this alien world as ambassadors of humanity, and in doing so, they were changing the very fabric of galactic society. The adventure was far from over. In fact, it felt like it was just beginning. As the first alien students prepared for their journey to Earth, and more humans eagerly signed up for the exchange program, one thing was clear. The galaxy was about to get a whole lot more interesting. Cultural exchange. The Galactic University campus was abuzz with activity. It was the day before the first group of alien students would depart for Earth, and excitement mixed with nervous energy filled the air. In the central courtyard, David and Sarah had set up a Earth preparation seminar to help their alien friends get ready for their upcoming adventure. All right, everyone, David called out to the assembled group of diverse alien species. Today we're going to cover some essential Earth customs and activities. We want you to be prepared for anything you might encounter. Sarah nodded, her eyes twinkling with mischief. And trust me, on Earth, you need to be prepared for anything. The first item on the agenda was food. David pulled out a portable grill, causing several aliens to flinch at the sudden appearance of open flame. This, my friends, is a barbecue, David explained. It's a cherished Earth tradition. We cook food over open flame, often outdoors, and it's as much about socializing as it is about eating. As David demonstrated how to grill various Earth foods, the aliens watched with a mixture of fascination and horror. Glixbor, the once timid cephalopod who had become one of the humans' most enthusiastic students, raised a tentacle. But David, he burbled, isn't fire extremely dangerous? Why would you willingly stand so close to it? Sarah laughed. That's part of the fun, Glixbor. A little danger adds spice to life. Plus, wait until you taste a perfectly grilled burger. It's worth the risk. Next, Sarah introduced the concept of sports. She had set up a small soccer field and was attempting to explain the rules to the bewildered aliens. So let me get this straight, chirped Zix, an avian being with iridescent feathers. You voluntarily run around for extended periods, exerting yourself to the point of exhaustion, all to kick a ball into a net. Exactly. Sarah beamed. And millions of humans gather to watch others do it professionally. Now, who wants to try? What followed was possibly the strangest soccer match in galactic history. Tentacles tangled with wings, gelatinous bodies engulfed the ball. And at one point, a crystalline being had to be carefully extracted from the goal post it had accidentally fused with in its enthusiasm. Despite the chaos, or perhaps because of it, the aliens were having the time of their lives. Their laughter and cheers drew a crowd of onlookers, including several faculty members who watched with a mixture of concern and amusement. Professor Zixlak sidled up to David as he was teaching a group of aliens how to roast marshmallows, another activity that caused much consternation due to its proximity to fire. I must say, Zixlak began, his scales shimmering with a mix of emotions. When you first arrived, I feared you might be a disruptive influence. But now I'm beginning to see the value in a little disruption. David smiled, expertly flipping a perfectly golden marshmallow onto a graham cracker. That's humanity in a nutshell, Professor. We disrupt, we challenge, we push boundaries. But in doing so, we often discover new possibilities. As the day wore on, the humans introduced more Earth concepts, music, and dance, which led to an impromptu alien rave. Art, finger painting proved particularly popular among the tentacled species, and even some basic Earth sciences. The concept of plate tectonics fascinated the silicon-based life forms. Towards the evening, Sarah gathered everyone for one final activity. Now we're going to teach you something that's quintessentially human: stargazing. As the alien sun set and the sky darkened, revealing a breathtaking array of stars and nebulae, Sarah and David led the group to a grassy hill. They laid out blankets and invited everyone to lie down and look up. On Earth, Sarah explained softly, we've been looking up at the stars for thousands of years, dreaming of what might be out there. It's what drove us to push harder, to develop faster, to reach for the impossible until we made it possible. The aliens lay in awed silence, many of them seeing their familiar sky with new eyes. Glixbor's tentacles waved gently in the night breeze as he asked, "Is this why humans are so driven? Because you're always reaching for the stars?" David nodded. "In a way, yes. We're explorers at heart. We see a mountain, we want to climb it. We see an ocean, we want to cross it. We see a star, we want to visit it." As they lay there under the alien sky, human and non-human alike, a profound sense of unity settled over the group. They were no longer just separate species, but fellow explorers, united by their shared sense of wonder at the universe. The next morning, as the first group of alien students prepared to board their ship to Earth, the atmosphere was electric. Gone was the fear and trepidation of the early days. In its place was an eagerness, a burning curiosity to experience the death world that had produced such fascinating beings as David and Sarah. Chancellor Voxtree's energy form pulsed brightly as they addressed the departing students. "You are embarking on a historic journey. You will be the first of our kind to study on Earth, to experience firsthand the crucible that forged humanity. Remember what you've learned here, but be open to new experiences, no matter how frightening they may seem at first." As the ship took off, David and Sarah stood with the remaining aliens, watching it disappear into the sky. Professor Zixlak approached them, his posture now one of respect, rather than the fear he had initially shown. "I believe," he said slowly, "that we may need to revise our curriculum when those students return. Something tells me they're going to come back with perspectives we've never considered before." Sarah grinned. "Oh, I'm counting on it, Professor. The galaxy's in for a wild ride." As they turned back towards the university, David and Sarah exchanged a knowing look. Their mission to introduce humanity to the galaxy was progressing better than they could have ever imagined. The ripples of their influence were spreading, and soon they would become waves that would reshape galactic society. The adventure was far from over. In fact, it felt like it was just beginning. As more humans prepared to join the exchange program, and the first alien students experienced Earth firsthand, one thing was clear: the intersection of human and alien cultures was going to produce something entirely new and wonderfully unpredictable. The galaxy would never be the same again. And that, David and Sarah agreed, was exactly how it should be. Galactic paradigm shift. 6 months had passed since the first group of alien students departed for Earth. The Galactic University campus was buzzing with anticipation as news spread that the exchange students were due to return. The entire academic community, from the lowliest maintenance droid to Chancellor Voxtree, gathered at the landing pad to welcome them home. As the sleek starship touched down, a hush fell over the crowd. The airlock hissed open, and out stepped the returning students. The assembled aliens gasped collectively. Their classmates had changed. Glixspor, once a timid cephalopod, now moved with a confidence that bordered on swagger. His tentacles, previously soft and fluid, had developed noticeable muscle definition. Zix, the iridescent avian, sported a mohawk of dyed feathers and a small metal stud in her beak. Even the crystalline being had changed, its facets rearranged in a more dynamic, almost aggressive pattern. But it wasn't just their appearances that had changed. As they began to interact with their old classmates, it became clear that their entire worldview had been transformed. "You would not believe the things we've seen," Glixspor exclaimed, his chromatophores flashing with excitement. "Humans live every day like it might be their last. It's terrifying and exhilarating all at once." Zix chimed in, her feathers ruffling. "Did you know they have competitions where they deliberately jump out of perfectly functional aircraft? They call it skydiving. I tried it. It was indescribable. The crystalline being vibrated with energy. Their cities never sleep. There's constant motion, constant change. At first, it was overwhelming. But then it became addictive. As the returned students shared their experiences, their classmates listened with a mixture of awe and growing curiosity. Stories of extreme sports, cutting-edge technology, and the relentless human drive to innovate spread across the campus like wildfire. In the following weeks, the impact of the Earth exchange became increasingly apparent. The university's curriculum underwent a radical transformation. New courses appeared: human risk assessment and management, Terran innovative thinking, and adaptation strategies for extreme environments. Research proposals that would have been dismissed as too dangerous or impractical months ago were now being fast-tracked. The university's laboratories buzzed with activity at all hours as students and faculty alike embraced the human approach of pushing boundaries. Even beyond the university, the influence of humanity began to spread. News of the exchange program had reached other worlds, and suddenly, Earth found itself inundated with requests for cultural and educational exchanges. Human media, once considered too intense for most alien species, was now in high demand. Extreme sports broadcasts became surprise hits, with aliens across the galaxy marveling at the daring feats of human athletes. 6 months after the return of the first exchange group, Chancellor Voxtree called a galactic press conference, flanked by David, Sarah, and representatives from various alien species. The Chancellor's energy form pulsed with an intensity never seen before. "Fellow sentients," Voxtree began, "we stand at a crossroads in galactic history. Our encounter with humanity has challenged everything we thought we knew about the universe and our place in it. We've long prided ourselves on our advanced technology, our peaceful coexistence, our measured approach to expansion and discovery. But humanity has shown us that there is another way." The Chancellor paused, their energy form shifting through a rainbow of colors. Humanity's drive, their relentless push against the boundaries of what's possible, their ability to thrive in conditions we considered unsurvivable. These are not traits to be feared, but to be embraced. They've awakened in us a spirit of adventure, a thirst for challenge that we didn't know we possessed. David stepped forward. "We came here to learn," he said, his voice carrying across the stunned audience. We wanted to understand alien cultures, to expand our knowledge of the universe. But in the process, we've discovered that we have as much to teach as we have to learn. Sarah nodded. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our physical capabilities, she added. It's our adaptability, our drive to improve, our refusal to accept limitations. And we've seen over these past months that these are traits that can be cultivated in all sentient species. Chancellor Voxtree's energy form stabilized into a brilliant, pulsing glow, which is why today we're announcing the formation of the Galactic Adventure Corps. This joint initiative will bring together the boldest minds from across known space, human and alien alike. Their mission: to push the boundaries of what's possible, to explore the unexplored, to dare mighty things. The announcement sent shockwaves through galactic society. Conservative factions warned of the dangers of embracing human recklessness, but they were increasingly drowned out by a growing movement of aliens eager to experience life as fully and intensely as their human counterparts. As the press conference concluded, David and Sarah found themselves surrounded by a mix of alien and human reporters, all clamoring for comments. "Did you ever imagine it would come to this when you first arrived?" one reporter asked. Sarah laughed. "Honestly, no. We hope to foster understanding, to build bridges between our cultures. But this is beyond our wildest dreams." David nodded in agreement. "We've always believed that humanity's destiny lies among the stars. But now we see that it's not just our destiny. It's a shared destiny, one that we'll forge together with our new alien friends." As they watched the excited crowds disperse, discussing plans for extreme sports leagues and interspecies exploration teams, David and Sarah exchanged a satisfied look. They had come to this alien world as ambassadors, hoping to help humanity find its place in a vast, unknowable universe. Instead, they had sparked a revolution of ideas, of attitudes, of what was considered possible. The galaxy, which had been in a state of comfortable stagnation for millennia, was now alive with the fire of human-inspired ambition and daring. The future was uncertain, filled with challenges and dangers that no one could predict. But now, for the first time in galactic history, there was a shared excitement about facing those challenges head-on. As the twin suns set on the Galactic University, casting long shadows across the campus, David and Sarah knew that this was just the beginning. Humanity had found its place in the stars, not as conquerors or mere participants, but as catalysts for a new age of galactic adventure. The universe, vast and mysterious as it was, had better watch out. Humanity was coming, and they were bringing the rest of the galaxy with them.